Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome
Good
to Sunday Morning Grace.
morning. Good morning for us. Might be afternoon or evening for you, but
And truth be told, we're actually scheduling this a couple of weeks before we're releasing it just because I am having surgery next week. And
which brings you to the topic of courage.
You know, when we set the themes for this year, including courage for this month, surgery wasn't even in the cards.
It's on the table at that point.
The angels knew what they were doing. So we have several points we want to make about courage today, and I think what really ties it all together or creates the framework for our conversation is just that it takes courage to have a vision for your life and to be very deliberate and intentional with how you want to live, really, like what's acceptable and what's not. And I think when we deny compromise, it oftentimes takes a lot of courage.
Absolutely. I think in respect to, part of courage is having courage to stand up for your convictions. And, that's it. Typically convictions are a longer term thing, and potentially a lifelong thing. And there's probably a lot of situations with inequality in the world where it takes courage for those that are being treated unequal to not give up. And on the flip side, it takes courage for others who see the inequality and potentially see unequal actions to do something about it, because they're standing up for those being treated unequal may have ramifications on their career or on their whatever pursuit that they're pursuing. And again, that ties back to having the courage to stand up for those convictions that, all people should be treated equally and fairly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's a situation our daughter's going through right now where, and we don't really want to speak to it publicly because we don't, it's very early stages, but she's, suffice to say that she stands true for her beliefs and stands strong for her beliefs. And we're actually recording this on her birthday. So, it's reminding me actually of the courage it took because back when she was born 31 years ago, the maternity leave policy was a standard 8 weeks. And I just knew when I was, out to here pregnant, I just knew that there was no way that I would be able to leave my infant, our infant, at that stage in the game. And so I had a wonderful boss with a lot of children of his own. I can't remember whether he had 4 or 5 at that point, but he had a lot of children of his own. I think it was 4. He did go on to have 2 more. But so he was very family-friendly oriented, and and this was in a high-powered, financial company. And I just said, let's see how we can change the maternity leave policy. And so it got extended to 4 months and then 2 months without pay, I think. So I think I was home for 6 months.
The first 6 months
total.
So.
And I had people actually come up. It was a real win. Like at Fidelity, it was a real win to be able to do that because it was such a sort of work, kind of let's do this kind of mentality. But I did have women come up to me a couple of years later and just say thank you that I had set a precedent for others in our area of the company to do the same.
And I hopefully remembering this, it was 31 years ago. But,
I know, right?
I believe you also had a woman that worked in the human resources that sort of helped you with the cause, that was very supportive. And, whether it was or wasn't, it's people like that it's generally sort of any of these things, it's generally one person leading the cause, but it's others tapping into their courage to say, yeah, that's the right thing to do. You know, maybe my boss isn't going to be happy that I'm supporting this, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And there were a couple of women involved with that. It was my boss, who was a guy, his boss, who was a woman, who was very courageous in supporting it. And yeah, there was a female HR person. I can't remember her name at this time, but yeah. So I love that, you know, and I think this is Pride Month. We just had Asian Awareness Month, and then there, of course, was the Black Awareness Month. And you know, there are so many people in this world who are feeling marginalized, who are marginalized, and for those of us who can stand in courage with them, supporting them, you know, that's everything right there, because it just starts to change the energy to, this is just not acceptable anymore. You know, this is just not acceptable anymore.
Absolutely. So we've been talking a bit about courage related to conviction, but then a lot of times I think courage comes out in the moment, and it is going to trace back to conviction, but that's how you end up with conviction, is the courage in the moment. Whether that's standing up for someone, whether that's turning down the third donut or the third cocktail, or whatever it is that you're basically trying to do or trying to change in your life. It's really those moment-to-moment things that add up. And, you know, we have to stay strong, but on the other hand, we also have to be gentle with ourselves, because there are moments you'll have that third donut, possibly, and to let that go. We're humans. And so I think part of courage is being able to hold, but to also, you know, forgive us for being fallible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it takes a lot of work to stay in that space of courage, so that kind of thing doesn't happen with frequency.
Yep.
You know, so that it's really the exception as opposed to more of the rule. And like, for example, getting ready for this surgery, I've been meditating twice a day and visualizing myself going through this surgical process peacefully and gracefully and healing well. And I think we can apply that, you know, as we are dedicated to our spiritual practice, to every day seeing ourselves in the present as well as in the future, and doing the healing to see ourselves that way in the past, in this light of grace, of love, of doing what we came here to do, of being of service, and being in compassion, and being kind to ourselves and to others, of course. So I think it's having the courage to, when we slip and fall a little bit, and you know, I certainly have had my moments, especially in the last few weeks, and you know, having those go-tos, like mine is what we affectionately call
BBS, British Baking Show.
It's actually the Great British Baking Show, but we already knew that. We didn't need the great. Anyway, so doing those things that sort of bring you up a level of vibration, you've got your soccer.
Yep. So, and those people on the Great British Baking Show, say that 3 times fast, you know, they have courage. If you've ever watched it, you know, they're basically put under the gun with a time frame, and it's like, bake this in 3 hours, and sometimes it's stuff that they've never baked before in their life, And so to go on, to be on TV, as well as to like be under that stress and that pressure, that it takes guts.
Criticism of Mary and Paul.
Yeah, got courage.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to relate back to, courage can take place in mundane things. So I was at the dentist yesterday, and it's silly, I'll admit it, but in the past, when the hygienist said, are you brushing, are you flossing, I would just go along with what I knew they wanted to hear. And so in this case, I've gotten a new dentist. My gums were in poor shape because of COVID. I hadn't been to the dentist in almost a year and a half. And so this is my third time going in the last month and a half. And they're pushing an electric toothbrush. So she asked me, are you using your electric toothbrush when you brush twice a day? And I was courageous, and I said, no. I said, sometimes in the morning it makes me gag. So I use my regular toothbrush because that doesn't cause it as much. So, it's a very silly thing, but I think courage in the mundane is also important, because a lot of times it's all those mundane things that build that platform for what your overall convictions and how you run your life.
Well, you're getting at the courage to speak your truth.
Yes, absolutely. So, and I'm facing, I've never had great dental health, but I feel like I'm taking baby steps to make that better. And so by not being intimidated and just speaking my truth, I know that I'm on the path right now to be better at it, and hopefully that I'll have the courage to continue that.
You have the courage to continue that.
I have the courage, hopefully the conviction.
Exactly. So yeah, I think it's important to just remember that courage is in those little moments, those little decisions when you step away from yourself or choose to be courageous and stay true to what's really in your heart and what's really your truth. And it does take courage, because I apologies to any dentists out there, but I can be easily intimidated by them as well. So I get that. It's just an uncomfortable situation, and especially, we're going to slide in a little bit of human design. We're about to break for the summer for a couple months from our regular weekly Sunday morning graces. So we got to just bring up human design, even just a little bit.
Yes, we do.
Just a little bit. We both have open throats, like no definition in our throat. So, which means that in certain circumstances, a lot of circumstances, unless we've been invited, people don't hear us. And so it's easy to just sometimes say what you think people are going to hear anyway. I don't know if you found that. That's my experience.
Yep.
Because they're going to hear what they want to hear. But then we do that and compromise our own integrity.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. And I was just thinking that, sort of at the core of this all, we've talked about convictions, we've talked about having the courage, but at the core of this all is really being connected to you.
Yeah.
And, that point about human design, it's sort of getting you off center in a way. And, ultimately, if you're not connected to you, then, it's like somebody that's lining up a shot, whether that's a rifle or basketball or whatever it is, bowling. If you're not centered, that shot is not going to follow through. So if you're not centered, that conviction, that courage is not going to follow through in the direction that you want it to go.
Right, because all the little moments are what create the milestones.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So are you feeling ready to pull a card?
I think we should pull a card.
I think we should pull a card.
I think you should have the courage.
I think I should have the courage. And I will say, birds are quite bold today. Bold and courage are related?
They are related, though I do think that there's also subtle courage that is important.
Yeah. Wasn't that what we were talking about with you, like speaking up to the hygienist?
I'd say that's more mundane courage, but.
So what do you mean by subtle courage?
Well, just, for example, if you have somebody in your life that you're trying to help, sometimes it might just take a gentle nudge, a kind word, or a suggestion. Oh, why don't you go for a walk, or whatever you're trying to help them accomplish. It doesn't always have to be bold, stand up. It can be very subtle.
Right. I get it. Yeah, I totally agree.
And the card?
Watching the cat, hopefully not drinking the pool water. So this is the Angel Guide Oracle by Kyle Gray. I love this deck. A friend gave it to me for my birthday, and I really love it. Our card is Do the Work.
How appropriate is that?
That's totally appropriate. And what's funny is that when I opened the deck, I don't know if the cards were kind of on their back, but this was the card that was on top. So
and I
there's
think
extra emphasis.
I think that's the card I got yesterday.
That may be why it was on the top. So do the work. It takes work to stay in that space of courage. It's there are times where it's easy, and there's times where we're really swimming against the tide, and we have to dig deep into. It's like I don't know where I'd be if I wasn't doing this prepare for surgery program and meditating twice a day. I think I'd be freaking out.
Absolutely. And staying centered.
Do the work.
Staying centered and connected to your core. It takes work. I mean, this world, there's just so much going on and swirling around, and it takes work to stay centered, grounded.
And sometimes that work involves pretzels on the couch with British baking show.
Or crumpets.
Crumpets.
Have they made crumpets? I haven't seen
I don't know.
I haven't seen a show with crumpets. Don't you think that would go?
Yeah, absolutely. Tea and biscuits. So I picked as tenant for us, which I think is so perfect for the summer, as we are going to again be taking a break.
I am one with Mother Earth, the Great Mother.
The Great Mother. That's such a perfect tenant to be.
I don't know if we've often shown you the backside of the stone, so I just thought I'd share that as well, because that obviously has a rose right in the center, and
it's our logo.
Who provides roses but Mother Earth, right?
She sure does. She sure does. Yeah. So before we do our tenants, which we will in just a moment, to let you know, we will be posting some kind of best of Sunday Morning Grace, as well as some inspiration throughout the summer months to just keep the energy moving, to provide some inspiration, and then we will be back live the Sunday after Labor Day, and I don't remember exactly what that date is, but it's early September.
We'll let you know.
You certainly will. All right. Ready, honey?
Ready. I open my heart with deep gratitude and intend today to master my spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical energies. I am dedicated to my spiritual practice. I surrender to my soul's purpose through sacred prayer. I own my guidance. I live in partnership with my angels. I serve with a loving heart. I am compassionate in every moment. I trust it's all good. I allow immediate forgiveness. I honor my truth. I listen to the spiritual messages within my physical body. I express myself creatively. I am one with Mother Earth, and so it is. And I am.
Apologies for the sunnies.
I am one with Mother Bird.
One with Mother Bird. It is quite bright here. So with that, wishing you all so much love. Have a beautiful, beautiful summer, and we look forward to connecting with you all in the fall.
Get out there.
Yes.
Get outside. That was the message that came through while we were doing the tenets. Is I am one with Mother Earth. A lot of us have been locked up, so do what you can to get out there and be with her. I think it's important for that centering grounding that we talked about.
It is medicine.
It is.
Mother Earth medicine.
Love you all.
Blessings. Be well.
Be well.